So I'm sitting in my office one day, and there's this frantic knock on the door. And my administrative assistant burst in, and she goes, Dr. Douyon, James is here. James is here, and James is saying he can't walk. He's in a wheelchair. I had taken care of James for many years, and James was somebody whose brain had suffered from psychological trauma. And in all the years that I had known James, with all the symptoms that he's had, paralysis, not being able to walk, was never one of them. And so in that moment, there are two things that I knew for sure. The first was that there was no medication that was going to treat James's symptoms. There was no test that I could order that was going to show me what was wrong. James had a conversion disorder. This was his body's way of manifesting psychological stress. This was about a mind that was in turmoil, a brain that was completely out of control and that was yelling for safety. The second thing that I knew for sure, I wasn't getting paid for this. James just showed up. He didn't have an appointment. I was about to do life-transforming work. Not, prescribe a pill to cover up some symptoms. I'm talking about the kind of healing so that these symptoms completely go away. And I was going to get paid $0 for it. So I tell my staff, bring James into one of the exam rooms. I walk in, and there James is, sitting in a wheelchair. So I say to James, what's wrong? And he says to me, Doc, I can't walk. Specifically, he says, I can't walk forward and backwards, but I can walk side to side. So I said, okay, show me. So James takes his foot off the footrest, stands himself up, steps over the footrest, brings the other leg over the footrest, shuffles side to side. And I said, James, take a step forward. And he's like, Doc, I can't. So I sit James back down. We chat for a bit about what's going on. And then I stand him back up. I said, all right, James, show me. Walk. Again, he does the same thing. Big step to the side, shuffles to the left, then shuffles to the right. And I said, James, take a step forward. And he says, Doc, I can't. Now, what I'm about to share with you, your doctor should never do this or talk to you in this way, okay? But I said to James, we don't have time for this. You've got a wife, you've got kids. Nobody has time for this. You have a future, and I am not admitting you into the hospital today. So you are going to walk out of here. I picked up James's left leg. Don't let doctors do this to you. Picked up his left leg, threw it out in front of him. Then I said, James, take your right leg, and I want you to throw it out in front of you. And he did this. Right? So do the same thing with your left leg. And he goes, oh my God, doctor, it's a miracle. I can walk. Right? 20 minutes after James wheeled into my office, he walked out. And my staff came running to me, and they're like, Dr. Douyon, what did you do? You're a genius. And you know what? They're absolutely right. Right? So what is his symptoms? What does his story have to do with the mindset of gentrification? Absolutely nothing. And at the same time, absolutely everything. Because James's brain teaches us that the brains of communities that have been gentrified, it's very similar to James. James, just like communities, can suffer conversion disorders. James's symptoms, they were very real. It just wasn't due to a structural issue going on in his brain. It was due to a brain that was holding on to the hurts from the past and had developed unhealthy ways of thinking, and now was choosing between these false choices. For James, it was, if I move forward in a healthy way, people are going to stop loving and taking care of me the way that they have been. If I move forward in a healthy way, I'm now responsible for my entire life. If I move forward in a healthy way, I may fail. Neighborhoods also can develop conversion disorders, right? Beautiful, beautiful buildings property values worth in the billions, beautiful people, neighborhoods filled with intelligence, creativity, artistry. And yet, because of the hurts of the past, because of unhealed stress and trauma, they too face a false choice. And that false choice is, do we hold on to our culture, or do we invest in our future? Do we honor our history, or do we bring in big businesses? Do we spend our money with the big businesses that promise development, or do we spend our money with the small mom and pop shops? Harlem has amazing organizations, has amazing businesses like Shop Nailu, where you could get these beautifully curated gifts, or organizations like the Harlem Junior Tennis and Education Program that are teaching children how to be champions and leaders off and on the court. But these false choices are holding us back. James's problem wasn't his legs. James's problem was the story that his brain was telling him about what his legs could or could not do. I believe that gentrification always starts with a story. And it always starts with a story about who you are, what you're capable of, what you're not capable of, who your community is, what your neighborhood is, and what your neighborhood is not capable of. One of the first signs of gentrification is when the coffee shop menus change, when they get incredibly complicated, more complicated than neurological disorders. I can tell you everything you would ever want to know about epilepsy, dementia, strokes, MS, Parkinson's. I have no idea what a grande lavender oat milk foam infusion latte is. No idea. But here's what I do know about it. It probably tastes really good. But it's also probably really unhealthy, which means doctors, nurses, Harlem Hospital, we're all going to be in business for a very long time. Now, I'm not saying that, Harlem is being brainwashed, poisoned, and having its resources taken away. But, one of the really interesting things is that a lot of talk about gentrification has to do with urban development and economics. This conversation is not about those things. I'm a neurologist, and according to some, I'm a genius neurologist. This conversation is about the brain, because I believe that gentrification always starts in the brain. Your brain is the most complicated structure that we know in our entire solar system. More complicated than any computer, more powerful than AI. In fact, your brain is so powerful that from the moment you're born, people are fighting to control the way that you think. Because they know if they can control the way that you think, they can then control the way that you act. Early on, it might be parents, then it may become school-age children, might be, as we get older, fellow classmates, and we get older, it becomes colleagues and bosses. If they can control you, then, they can get you to do anything. But if you can take charge of your brain, then the sky is the limit. Harlem is not just a neighborhood. Harlem is an idea. Harlem is what happens when you bring together stories, identity, culture, and purpose, and intelligence. Think about all the great minds that have come out of Harlem. Think about all the writers. Think about all the artists. Think about the entrepreneurs, the other business people. Think about the visionaries and the politicians. You may not notice gentrification initially. It starts to happen very subtly. First, it could be, the membership goes down in churches. Then a local barbershop closes here and there. Then what starts to happen is that artists start to leave. Teachers start to leave. nurses start to leave. Then the memories leave. The culture leaves. Gentrification always starts in the brain. And as a neurologist, I've realized this thing. And that is every neighborhood has a brain. Not a literal brain, but a collective brain. Every neighborhood has a shared nervous system. Every neighborhood has a shared identity. That neighborhood knows who they are. Every neighborhood has shared memories. And once the collective brain starts to disappear, then things start to completely break down. From a neurologist perspective, connection is incredibly important for the brain. Every neurological disease that happens is a breakdown in connection between neurons and the connections that they make with each other. Every single one. You have a stroke, there's blood that blocks the flow to a particular part of the brain, killing neurons in that part of the brain and its connections. You have dementia, there's widespread loss of neurons throughout the brain, killing those cells and the connections that they make. We see the importance of connection in every aspect of life. Countries go to war because there's a breakdown in communication and connection. Couples split and divorce because there's a breakdown in communication and connection. When people are connected to their neighborhood, their stress levels decrease, creativity increases, their confidence increases. When people are disconnected from their neighborhood, well, stress levels rise. Their anxiety and depression gets worse. Chronic illness goes up. But also they begin to lose their identity. I told you the story about my patient James and the power of the story that you kind of tell yourself. But let me tell you the story about my patient Thomas. Thomas was somebody that had the diagnosis of epilepsy. Thomas was coming to see me in follow-up. We had gotten Thomas to a place where he was seizure-free for over a year. So this was just a routine visit. So Thomas comes in and he's like, yeah, doc, everything's great. So then I'm thinking to myself, oh, Thomas, what have you been doing the last year and a half? No seizures? Are you in school? Are you working? Are you just enjoying life, traveling? So I asked him, what have you been doing? And he's like, doc, I haven't been doing anything. I have epilepsy. See, the whole point of medicine is to cure you if we can, and if not, to at least get you healthy enough so that way you can live your life. Thomas had allowed this label, this diagnosis, to dictate who he was going to be, who he was from the perspective of his identity, despite the fact that he no longer had symptoms. Seizure-free for over a year, that's pretty damn close to a cure. And I'm not trying to downplay anything that Thomas was going through emotionally or mentally. I know the impact that chronic disease has on every aspect of somebody's life. I know this as a doctor, but I also know this as somebody who is a 2-time kidney transplant recipient. I was diagnosed with kidney failure at 18 as a college scholarship athlete. I had my first transplant at 28, 8 days after I graduated medical school. I had my second transplant 5 years ago. So I get it. But damn, do we need to let these labels dictate who we're going to be, especially when they come down from systems that are looking to profit off of us? I believe that gentrification happens when we lose our identity, when we start to believe what the systems have to say about who we are and what is possible for us. At the end of the day, gentrification is not just about businesses or real estate. Gentrification is really about us. Gentrification is about what we believe about us and our neighborhoods. Here are 4 things that you can do starting today to have a say in how Harlem evolves. Because Harlem will evolve. The Harlem we know today won't be the same 20 years from now. But you want to say in its evolution. Because that's not just dictated by businesses and politicians. It can be dictated by all of us. So the first thing that you want to do, you want to invest in yourself. Invest in your own health and well-being. Invest in the health and well-being of your brain and your body. Because if you are sick, demented, or dead, your voice will not be heard. The second thing you want to do is tell yourself much more powerful stories about who you are, who you can be, and who Harlem is. A friend of mine, Reverend Dr. Kathy Bristow, a good friend of mine, passed away 2 years ago. She was a stalwart of Harlem. She and I had known each other for years. We had created programs here in Harlem. In her 70s, Dr. Bristow decided that she was going to go back to school and she was going to get her doctorate. A couple of weeks after she defended her thesis, she found out that she had advanced cancer, and she ended up passing away. But do you know what her thesis was about? It was about the power of storytelling circles. See, Harlem's greatest asset is not buildings. It's always been her people and their stories. Number 3, you want to cultivate an identity for yourself that aligns with who you truly want to be. Don't let others dictate who you are. Don't let some label dictate what's possible for you. And recognize that Harlem, too, has an identity. Learn Harlem's identity through its history, through its challenges and its triumphs. Number 4, invest in Harlem. Spend money in Harlem. I'm not telling you not to shop online. But damn, when you want to get that special gift for somebody, take a walk outside, walk through the neighborhood, and spend that money on the local mom and pop shops. See, because the reality is that Harlem's evolution is about us. It's about how we feel about ourselves, what we think we are capable of. It's about whether we value who we are, whether we value our own stories, whether we value our own identities more than we value a grande, lavender, oat milk, cold infusion latte with a side of diabetes. Thank you.